Hey creator, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is very special because I'm going to be going over my secret video recipe, aka a script or an outline. So I'm going to actually break down my own personal script that I use for every single one of my videos, and I'm going to tell you how you can basically start your video, how you're going to create the content for your video, and then how you're going to wrap it up. So if you are new here and you don't know who I am, my name is Chrissy Walker. I help small content creators get better at making content, get more subscribers, and make money online. So if that sounds like your jam, please do me a huge favor, like today's video and then subscribe to my channel for more tips. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So obviously we're going to have a beginning, a middle, and an end to your video. Now, how do you curate the perfect recipe or the perfect script recipe? Now, I'm not going to say that this is going to be a one size fits all. It's going to be the answer to all of your problems of like not knowing what to create content around, but it's going to be a good foundation to basically follow on. Just think of it as a guide. It's not going to give you the exact answer to what you should do, but it's going to be a good, I guess, like skeleton recipe for you. So I'm going to give you the layout and you're going to fill it in pretty much. So the first thing that you're going to want is going to be the beginning. And what's included in the beginning is going to be a hook and an intro. So what's the difference? Actually, I'm making this up because, honestly, I don't think there's really too much of a difference between a hook and an intro, but I think there's a really important part that differentiates it in my mind. And that is the hook is the first like 10 first 5 seconds. Like, how are you going to captivate your viewer and get them to stick around? And then your intro is basically the first 30 seconds, and it's you convincing them to stick around for the rest of the video. So the hook, you're grabbing their attention, and then the intro, you're convincing them to stay. So that's how I differentiate it. So the hook can be multiple things, or actually no, just pick one thing, but you have multiple options on how you can like form it and how you can go about it. And so when you're hooking your viewer, you want to captivate them, you want to get their attention, you want them to know that them clicking on your video was the right decision to make. And so how can you go about that? So there's a few ways. So one is you can ask a question that will get their mind running and leave them curious. So let's say, I always use like baking as an example for videos. I don't know why, but let's say you are a baker and your video is about how to bake a cake. So maybe your intro, if you're using it, the question option, you can ask, do you want to learn how to bake the best cake in only 4 steps? That's pretty enticing, right? Because you're grabbing their attention by basically confirming that what they're watching or what they clicked on is what they're going to watch. And then 2, you're trying to oversimplify the cake baking process. And sometimes people don't want to bake, or they don't want to get started on baking because they're intimidated by like all the ingredients and how many steps there are and whether or not it's going to come out perfect. But by saying that there's only 4 steps to making the best cake in the world, that leaves me curious. That makes me wonder, okay, well, let's see how this goes, because I don't know if I believe it, but at the same time, I do believe it. Let's see what happens. So that question leaves the viewers curious and leaves them wanting to know more. So another way that you can go about hooking your audience is by stating exactly why they're there. Just reminding them the reason why you clicked on this video was because of this. So if we're going with the baking example, if the title is how to bake a cake and the thumbnail shows a cake, like the result of it, then what you could state as soon as the video starts is, today we're going to be learning how to bake a cake. That's it. Because you're letting them know, like, this is not clickbait. This is exactly what you're looking for, and this is what you're gonna get. And so just by having that confirmation, it can let your viewers know, hey, I was honest and you're getting what you want, and here you go. And then that can leave the viewer wanting to just continue watching because you have confirmed to them that they're going to get out of the video what they clicked on for. Another way that I found has been helpful for me is actually creating a compilation of videos and narrating over it. So maybe getting like a bunch of B-roll, and maybe I'm reenacting like different things that are happening in the video, or I'm getting a bunch of memories together. And then as long as it's relevant to your video topic, it's fine. Just putting a bunch of videos back to back to back and narrating it, creating like an emotional, evoking intro can help with people continue on with your video, as long as what you're saying or narrating relates to the video topic and also hits that emotional point. You want to relate to your audience somehow. You want to bring them in by letting them know that you know what they're going through, or just, that emotional point. You want to hit that little emotional nail on the head and get them to continue watching. Because if there's anything that emotional appeal type of content can do best, is keeping people on your video longer. And so if you're able to connect with them at an emotional level, you've got them. You're able to get them to continue watching, unless they're not in the mood for it or something like that. But usually it'll help with people continuing on with watching your videos. So something that I would avoid in your intro or your hook is long introductions, introducing who you are, what you do, what you have to offer, like and subscribe. And I know I did that at the beginning of my video, but I made sure I was very brief about it. I noticed that if you tend to stay on the intro for too long, people do click off because they kind of just want to get to the meat. They just want to get to the content. They want to learn what they want to learn, or they want to know what they want to know, and they kind of want to get out of it. So by holding them hostage for too long and going on and on and on with your intro and worrying about things that don't really matter, it's going to cause people to click off, and that's not going to look good for the algorithm. It's not gonna be good for you. It's not gonna be good for the viewer because they're not getting what they want and they're losing their trust in you. So be sure that you're avoiding those long introductions where you're just talking more about me, and focus on the viewer, what the viewer wants, and be all about the viewer. It's all about the viewer at the end of the day, okay? So now we're getting into the content part. So with the content part, how I like to lay it out is I always structure it in order, like some type of system. So if I am giving tips, obviously I'm going to have a certain number of tips. But let's say I'm not giving tips and I just want to talk about something that has to do with my life. I still make sure that everything is in order. There has to be some type of storyline there. It has to, lead up to the result of the video, or it has to have a climax, like there's a turning point or something like that. But you want to get to the content, and you also want to build up on the content. Now, I don't know if that makes sense, but for example, let's take my content. So what I like to do is I like to break things up into main points. So let's say I have 5 main points and it's a video on how to bake a cake. So I'm going to, step number one, that's gonna be my first main point, is going to be get these ingredients, XYZ. Step number 2 is, turn on your oven to 350. Let it warm up or preheat. That's step number 2. Step number 3 is, you kind of get the point. You want everything to go in order, because if it doesn't go in order, it doesn't make sense. Then your audience is going to be confused and they're going to click off of your video because they don't even know what's going on. So when you are creating the content, the middle, the meat, the juice, the biggest part of your video, it's going to take up 90%, 95% of your video. You want to make your points. And then I like to break it up into 3 different parts for each main point. So you have your main point, which is part 1. You have explaining what you mean. So that's part 2. And then you have giving an example. That's part 3. So that's typically what I like to do to keep things as tight as possible, because there are videos where people ramble on, and when they ramble on, it's too much. It causes people to get bored. It causes people to glaze over. It causes people to click off. So it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the viewer. It's not good for you. So make your point, explain it enough. Don't over explain it. Don't repeat yourself over and over again. And then give an example that will basically illustrate your point to your viewer. So then that's how I create my points, and then I just put in however many I need. And so when I'm writing my script out, I will basically put number 1, and then I'll make my point, and then I'll put like a bulletin, and then I will explain what I mean, and then another bullet, and then I will give an example, and then I'll move on to the next thing. That just keeps everything very tight-knit, organized, and then plus when you start filming, you're able to just go into the video and you're able to record and get it out of the way. So that's the content part. And within the content part, I also include somewhere in there, usually after tip number 1 or tip number 2, I always include a motion graphic of the like and subscribe button. So I always have that in there. I will say it as well, but I usually say it at a different point in my video. And then the graphic is kind of just like a reminder that pops up in the corner. You can also sneak in a little bit of like a call to action during your content. So maybe after making point number 4 in between 4 and 5. If you want to mention something like if you have a link for something for an affiliate product, or if you have a freebie that you want to mention or anything like that, or if you want them to comment on your video to get more engagement, then you can do that in the middle of your video. It's kind of like not holding them hostage, but you know, you want to get in there so that you don't say it at the beginning and focusing on yourself during the intro, and then you don't want to do it at the end because you don't want to signify to your audience that you're ending the video at all. So I always put it in between the meats and bones and stuff like that of my video, so that, you know, it's kind of like snuck in there, and it's kind of just like something that people can just glaze over without a problem with clicking off. And by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I still have my YouTube growth roadmap that's completely free that you can download in the link below. So now we're gonna go on to the outro, so the end of your video. So I always recommend to wrap up quickly, and you wanna wrap up quickly because you want to get as long of viewer retention on your video as possible. So you want them to watch all the way to the end if you can. In order to do that, you can't give any signs that you're ending the video. Just like on short form content, like on TikTok or Instagram, you know, those loop videos, sometimes you'll see that, and it's because people are good at not making it not making it obvious at all that their video is about to end. They kind of just go through their content, and then all of a sudden their content restarted. And that's kind of what you want for your video. It's not like you can loop your video, but you want it to end quickly so that they reach the end of your video. And then that will show as, for one person, one viewer, it'll show 100% viewed video for them. And then that can contribute to your analytics, which is really good, because if people watch your video all the way through, then YouTube will see that as a good thing and push out to more people, and potentially get you more views. So you want to wrap up quickly. And so what I would say is avoid anything where you're saying, so these are the tips that I have for you, blah, 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 or hopefully this was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, or if you found this video helpful, comment down below. So all of those are like signs that you're about to end your video. I would avoid saying those. I would say in the middle of your video, just, you know, somewhere in the middle, like we mentioned before. And then you also want to end with a call to action, like a quick one. And I always recommend a call to action to watch your next video. So usually at the end of my videos, you'll see me say, if you found this helpful, then you're definitely going to enjoy the video on the screen. So go ahead and click on it, and I will see you there. Bye. See how quick that was? That was super quick. And I made sure that I didn't mention anything to where people knew that the video was going to end. And since it was quick and they knew it was ending, they didn't really it's an opportunity for them to continue watching, if that makes sense. Like, it's like you're kind of rushing through the end so that the video can just end. And so with that being said, I wouldn't recommend putting end credits for a long time at all, because sometimes people like the music to play out and then they'll just have an end credit with the end screen on. I mean, you can definitely put that in, but if people click off during the end of it and your video is still playing, then you're kind of losing the opportunity right there at the end for people to watch all the way through. So be sure that you wrap up quickly and you get the ending out of the way by telling your viewer to click on the video on the screen. So if you found this video helpful, feel free to click on the video on the screen, because it's going to be packed with so much information that's helpful to you, and I will see you there. Bye.